Genshin lore misconceptions. With the vast collection of characters in Genshin Impact, it's almost impossible for each character to be given the sufficient understanding they need to really delve into the complexities. So what happens is that certain character archetypes, or ideals, can get really mixed up or even completely ignored or misconstrued. Popular depictions of beloved Genshin characters aren't inherently tied to what's in the lore because not everyone has the time or interest to interpret lore. Plus, it's also possible that we all just have different perceptions. It really does happen that we have different understandings about character stories. That's perfectly normal. But there's a lot of hearsay in this community. As a content creator, I definitely contribute to that in ways even I don't understand. But it builds a kind of misconception that's almost difficult to fact check. And this cloud of misconception isn't uncalled for either. Humans interpret caricatures in different ways. Blue is not the same for everyone, as the saying goes. So the question for today for the comments is, who do you think is a character that is misinterpreted by the community? This could be either through their lore or their personality or just their motivations in general. Leave those down in the comments below. Additionally, not all characters are executed well enough that they're easily digestible, and it takes a level of patience to even comprehend a character's story and lore because Genshin lore is really difficult and vague. But what happens is that there are popular misconceptions of certain characters that twist the narrative of how they're perceived to the general audience. It's a really important tidbit to remember that this doesn't include headcanons. In my opinion, the best way for you to understand the relationship between headcanons and canon is by creating two alternate versions of a character. You have to respect that something is canon before you can even make a headcanon of it. Otherwise, you're about to create an inaccurate, or even worse, a toxic mindset of cognitive dissonance where you'll perceive your manufactured reality as the true and ultimate state of that character. Headcanon is meant to be interpretations of the characters separate from the canon, but you as a consumer should never ignore canon because it's not fair to the ones that originally wrote the character for you to interpret in the first place. The problem with popular misconceptions is that it stems from a headcanon that's cultivated so much that people have forgotten completely to either fact-check it or accept the herd mentality. A lot of people say it, therefore it must be correct. Or even worse, its popularity has become such a vast misconception. One of the reasons I start my video off with several disclaimers is because you're not supposed to always agree with me. You guys are free to make your own opinions. On a side note though, memes are fair game. I make broke zhongli memes all the time, but I am fully aware he has a job. Anyway, here are just my personal interpretations and considerations about popular misconceptions or criticisms about Genshin characters. Today, I'll be tackling some Mondstadt characters, but I'll be continuing the series with other regions simply because there are too many people to fit into one video. Venti didn't abandon Mondstadt nor ignore the calls of the people. Venti's role in the story of Mondstadt is quite suspicious and even, frankly, more difficult to pinpoint. Venti has always been an outside force looking in, allowing himself to integrate in Mondstadt's growing culture and history without truly being at the scene. However, to say that Venti is truly an absent figure is uncalled for and doesn't do justice to the important parts of history that Venti has integrated himself in. If you look at Venti's personality from a surface level, you can definitely argue that Venti doesn't really care about what happens to the people of Mondstadt. You can argue that Venti has given them freedom, and if humans abuse that freedom, then that's not his problem anymore. His lines regarding Albedo actually makes us think that he won't interfere in Mondstadt's greater problems. But if you look at his actions throughout history, we do know that Venti cares deeply about Mondstadt and isn't the kind of person to leave it to die. When Mondstadt is in dire need of help or need of change, Venti either wakes up or is at the scene to help. Venti fell asleep after the Archon War concluded and stated that he doesn't want to interfere with Mondstadt's freedom nor dictate the state of affairs. But we have seen him intervene in important situations through his own way. For example, he woke up to fight Durin after years of slumber. He also technically started the new age of Mondstadt outside of the aristocracy because he helped Vanessa fight and fend off Ursa the Drake. Venti is also currently awake during the present time because of the Valen's slow corruption. It's possible that Venti only recently woke up alongside the Traveler because when you tell Venti about the name Storm Terror, he becomes confused and corrects the name to Dvalin. And when Venti confronts you about interrupting his attempt to heal Dvalin in the first place, the dialogue hints that this was an initial attempt. Additionally, Venti's choice to sleep may not be of his own volition either. We know that Mondstadt has clear connections with the God of Time, and that the seeds of stories cultivate through time. I honestly think it's such a disservice to Venti to be discredited for the work that he put in the current story of Genshin. He was really active in the Mondstadt Archon quest to save Valen, and is willing to integrate himself into Mondstadt's culture as a means to watch over them. Venti also knows more about the characters around us than we give him credit for. The point is that Venti is usually awake to intervene when something big happens. I can't personally tell you why Venti is absent for long periods of time, but we do know it might have something to do with the cultivation of stories. Venti's role is instead a waiting game. The role of gods in a story about mortals, even in our own religions, is a fascination. If they were truly benevolent, why do they act a certain way? The best explanation is we simply don't understand their greater plans. Maybe Venti is not allowed to intervene in people's stories, or doesn't have the power to either. So far as we've seen, the Archons aren't actually omnipotent and omnipresent entities. Even A herself isn't, and she had an iron rule over Inazuma. So to blame all the woes of the characters onto Venti to discredit his actions is unjustified if Zhongli and A don't get the same treatment. Though it's quite worrying that Venti is still awake right now. That means that something big is going to happen soon. Venti is lackadaisical and carefree, but that doesn't mean he's ignorant. If anything, there is a reason he always just happens to be at the right place at the right time in the events he's in. That's usually the base explanation of the gods and mortals relationship. Diluc isn't a spiteful man. Diluc's personality in the game is one of the more strangely mischaracterized personalities I've ever seen, and I'm actually really confused as to why. Diona and Klee's voice lines about him might have been great reasons for why people think he's a spiteful grown-up, but it's important to note that they don't really have a good overview grasp on who Diluc is. Diluc externally does seem to be like a standoffish character in the in-universe inhabitants of Tevat, but we as an overviewing audience are given so much more depth to his character. Diluc lost his father from a young age, and basically was told by the Knights of Favonius to keep it quiet. He lost that childhood innocence and pursued his own path of vigilantism. But we also see that while he grew up, he became a more gentle, manly figure that is very much accommodating to the people around him. Diluc's personality is greatly paralleled to the Batman and Bruce Wayne dynamic, a clear reference from the Dark Knight hero and the rich boy duplicity. But unlike Bruce and Batman, Diluc's real-life personality doesn't really hinge on being the golden figure of Mondstadt, but is instead a mix of both of them. Diluc is brash with his opinions, and show his distaste in how the Knights of Favonius operate. But we need to observe how he actually treats the Knights. He still respects them individually, and understands that while they work for an organization that he can't necessarily accept, he still knows to differentiate the pawn from the board. Additionally, Diluc is a great epitome of hospitality in Mondstadt. There's a reason why people respect him even outside of just reverence. Yes, Klee finds him weird because he doesn't smile, but we see that he can be very friendly and pleasant when we hang out with him. He always advises the traveler to keep safe and ensures that they're at their best comfort. He and Kaya are on speaking terms, and while they don't like each other now, they do still hold an air of respect for each other. Diluc was willing to help Lisa's interrogation, and Diluc and Jean understand each other's sacrifices. And the rigidness between Diluc and Diona is a complete misunderstanding.
I don't need an umbrella, but you can use one if you need. Guess we can rest a bit. No need for small talk. All that matters is that you were safe last night. Would you like to try the secret menu? All right, see you next time. I'll make sure you leave safely. Just say the word if you need anything. For reimbursements, ask Elzer. You have already proven your determination. Well then, it is now time for you to witness my resolve. You have business to attend to? It's been a long while since I played chess with anyone but my butler. I just so happen to have a moment. Care to play around? Checkmate. Still, it's been a while since someone tested me this much. Not bad. Be it chess or combat, you always seem to surprise me. Working with you is quite the novelty. So, I look forward to continuing to work with you, partner. Just tell me your initial feelings. Excited, confused, anything. How does it feel to be a bartender? I see. Good. I'm happy for you. I've never thought about it, I suppose. My father didn't say a word at the time. But thank you. By the way, there's something I'd like to give you. But I suppose it's better to wait until you have more experience with your bartender job. I have no doubt that you'll do very well. Very well. Then, I look forward to seeing your good work. See you around.
The point being that Diluc's representation as a spiteful adult amidst a sea of seemingly happy and friendly faces in Mondstadt is quite unfair. He shows his care and camaraderie for his friends in his own special Diluc way, and we've seen him be cunning in the past. Diluc was greatly affected by what happened to him, but he's not necessarily a brooding figure either. Albedo doesn't hate people or interaction. Albedo has expressed in the game multiple times that he finds human relationships to be tedious, that they require so much energy to keep up. Albedo is a good representation of an introvert. Just because your social energy tends to deplete when you're with people doesn't mean you wish for total isolation either, or that you're unsociable or unpleasant in conversation, or that you hate people. Albedo is actually quite the opposite of that stereotype. Albedo, as a synthetic human, integrated into society to understand humans or mortals better. Albedo has created a life within Mondstadt that is free from suspicion and where he can observe human life and human creations at their fullest. He's actually in a different situation from Xiao altogether. While Xiao can't form relationships due to his anxiety that his karma will negatively affect those around him, Albedo's isolation is more of a personal volition due to his unique nature. But this aspect of Albedo has been misconstrued to the point people think Albedo hates human interaction altogether, when we've seen multiple times that just isn't the case. Ironically, Albedo is one of the most connected characters we have in the story so far, since Mihoyo is constantly integrating this guy into events with people. Albedo is very amicable and accommodating of others. He has a healthy relationship with Timaeus and Sucrose, who both respect him. Plus, his relationship with Sucrose is casual enough that Sucrose is open about her criticisms of her teacher. He also has a great relationship with Klee as a doting brotherly figure, and has an academic friendship with Mona. We also see how he reacts to new faces, such as Eula, Amber, Bennett, Kazuha, Singcho, Ayaka, and Venti. He also entertains people that don't even interest him just out of sheer politeness. Albedo's social battery may not be the longest, but to characterize Albedo as a Sasuke archetype is so unpleasant. I actually believe that he shares a lot of the lonely genius motif whose intellect is not understood by many simply because they can't. Not only is he a synthetic human, he also practices an art leagues beyond his colleagues, and the knowledge he possesses comes from decades and centuries of experience. There is no way normal humans, even those he considers friends, can even relate. If you've ever watched The Queen's Gambit, it actually reminds me a lot of Beth Harmon. She's capable of making relationships and friends, but she understands that there is a separation of intellect, even more so that she connects with a person that she deems is similar to herself. Albedo's isolation shouldn't be misconstrued as something foul. He really does try to keep a genuine connection with others, but just that he finds the process to be extraneous. I guess that's just the truth of human nature that he'll have to accept. Amber's personality to a game-only Genshin fan is actually quite basic. She's the stereotypical girl-next-door archetype that wants to help others on first notice and is willing to give others the benefit of the doubt. But Amber's true characterization comes in the manga. Amber's friendly and extroverted, but she also has times of distrust. She even said the word bastard, which is really funny to me. She understands that Kalei is someone in need and is just a new face in Mondstadt who is uncomfortable. But Amber knows when a situation requires her to be more mature. Amber's intelligence is used for both serious and comedic elements, but Amber's strategic, perceptive, and observative skills shouldn't be undermined. Amber was the one who connected Diluc's delusion and the Blackfire incident, both smelling like mist flower grass. Amber also displays her resourcefulness and nimbleness in combat against the Hilichurls and the Fatui contraption. She also suspects Il Dottore and immediately remembers him even after just one bump-in. But the most telling character moment in Amber's story in the manga is this one interesting development. During her investigation, Amber finds out that the Fatui are a possible perpetrator of the Blackfire incident. She makes a connection with Dottore and understands that whatever he's up to in Mondstadt is no good. So she decides to take matters into her own hands, a clear underestimation of the situation. This is further seen with how Amber assumes that the mission is simply a scouting mission, leaving her bow behind. This is a clear sign of unpreparedness since she's going into a place with hostiles. Just the simple thought of interacting with Hilichurls should have made her realize that things could escalate. But she makes a severe lapse in judgment. However, we see in the next few chapters that the true perpetrator of the situation is found. She confronts Kalei and Kalei confesses to being the one who killed the Fatui diplomats. However, Amber insists that if Kalei truly had negative intentions, she wouldn't have asked Kaya to kill her. Amber here displays a verbal level of trust and is willing to give Kalei the benefit of the doubt because Amber sees the good in her. But it doesn't mean she disregards the danger, because we see in the next few chapters that Kalei is given the opportunity to cleanse the spirit from herself. Amber, who has witnessed the Blackfire incident, understands that she can't blindly trust Kalei's situation to be out of goodwill, even with Sino's presence. This panel shows that while she's hesitant, she's grown from that past naivete and is willing to act in the event the ritual goes wrong. Eula's cold exterior is less of a genuine threat and more of a defense mechanism. Eula's cold exterior is often a debate in the community as either being a cause or an effect of her isolation, but when we read her lore, we further understand that it's an effect. A popular misunderstanding of Eula's character is that Mondstadt's attitude towards her are justified, but in her lore, we see that her exterior is a defense mechanism she created to thwart trouble from herself and stop future confrontations. Eula's personality isn't perfect, of course. I'm not really faulting anyone for thinking she's unpleasant since, well, vengeance and stuff. It really does seem like Hoyo wrote her surface personality to resemble the snotty rich kid vibes. But her motivations runs much deeper. If people perceive her as cold, then they wouldn't want to cause trouble in her presence. She's so used to people acting coldly towards her that she decided it was best to reciprocate that behavior by creating the air of security around herself. This is best evident in why she says vengeance will be mine. She's not actually threatening you like how Draco Malfoy says, "My father will hear about this," but it's instead a line that she convinced herself was the best way to tackle confrontation. I'll let her character story speak for itself. Years of such experience have led Eula to build an invisible shield to protect herself from unwarranted harm. The term vengeance is perhaps the most visible edge of that shield. Only by disregarding wild gossip and trying to accept the logic of her approach to the world can one come to understand the truth behind the complex shell of this young woman. She has never experienced the great humiliation of her clan, and all the torment she had endured in her life had been at their own hands. She attempted to free herself from their shackles, yet struggled to obtain recognition from the outside world. Her talk of grievances and vengeance was but a habit, a signal, a shield. Before grappling with grievances and vengeance, before questions of clan and outsider, she first had to discover herself. When conflict arises, Eula fights back with a sternly worded threat to indicate that she will remember this grievance and make the offending party pay for it one day. It seems to work like a magic spell, because as soon as these words are uttered, the conflict ceases immediately without ever having to escalate to the level of an all-out confrontation. Her survival mechanism, her means of self-preservation, her grit, and her determination. She may articulate it in terms of grievances and vengeance, but nothing can change what it is at its core. Something both strong and kind. It's actually pretty sad, all things considered, that Eula doesn't know of a better way to verbally ease the situation except a verbal threat. A threat that even she doesn't truly believe in. Fischl's roleplay isn't actually real. I have two things that I want to say about Fischl. First, Fischl isn't actually a being from another world. I've somehow seen so many people talk about how Fischl is actually proof of another extra-dimensional traveler. But guys, please, she's just a dedicated roleplayer. Her real name is Amy. But secondly is that Fischl actually has self-awareness that her character is fake. Some people misconstrued that Fischl pulled the Sumire Kazumi arc from Persona 5 Royal, but the way that Fischl acts and breaks characters hint that even she, on some fundamental level, understands that Fischl is Fischl and Amy is Amy. If Fischl truly thought that she was another character from another world, the concept of breaking form or being understood would be so foreign to her that she wouldn't even be able to comprehend it. Fischl is just a roleplayer that really likes Princess Fischl. Amy is a really imaginative girl that wants her creativity and fantasies to be a reality. It's really as simple as that. I guess as someone that also had their chuuni phase, I can relate a lot. You really get invested in the character you're portraying, and you really want others to be immersed in that fantasy too. She wants to be the illustrious Princess Fischl out of inspiration, and mimics it because that's what she personally deems the best kind of person to be. But there are times of vulnerability where Amy hints that she knows she's not really Princess Fischl, but that she wants to indulge in her fantasies and be accepted that this is the identity that she embraced. Mona doesn't disagree with Scaramouche's claim of the stars being a lie. Mona is also not from Mondstadt. And last, to end this video off, Mona doesn't actually disagree with the stars being a lie. Even she reinforces the idea of a fake sky by saying that astrology also incorporates the fake sky in its reading somewhere. But yes, that's it. Let me know if you have any other character suggestions. I actually have really strong opinions for future characters in this series, namely the Liuwen characters, so that's something I'll be really looking forward to. Anyway, my name is Aster and thank you for chilling with me.